You know how we like to take trips down memory lane? And you know how we always like to talk about the 2011 season because, heck, I don't know, championships are kind of fun to win. And we've recently been talking about how we're going more old school, a little bit more 11 personnel, a little bit more 12 personnel, a little bit more tight end, a little bit more fullback, a little bit more, I don't know, some Kye Staley style. So let's talk about all of this and more right around the turn.
You are Locked On Oklahoma State, your daily podcast on the Oklahoma State Cowboys, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
Howdy, y'all, and hello, all. Welcome back to Locked On Oklahoma State, your daily stop for all things cowboy and cowgirl related. My name is Cody Stovall. I want to thank you kindly for stopping by to make this your first listen here on Locked On Oklahoma State. We're available on all of your podcasting platforms as well as YouTube. You can find me on Twitter at AllDayoState. And today we are brought to you by FanDuel, the best experience in the betting world. So if you were coming up a long time ago, you knew that us getting the top players in Oklahoma when it came to recruiting was a very difficult proposition, right? You had to squeeze out the quote-unquote big brother over there in the backyard, for one, and then you had to compete with the Arkansas and the Michigans of the world, and we finally got one. And then he ended up being a three-time All-Big 12 performer, ended up being the Gatorade Player of the Year in Oklahoma, and ended up being a 14-0 perfect season state champion and a 2018 Guthrie High School Hall of Fame inductee. Goodness gracious, I need to take a bunch of breaths for this one. Ladies and gentlemen, let's welcome into the show today, Kye Staley. How are you doing, my guy?
I am doing good, man. It's a blessing and a privilege to be on the show today.
Well, I greatly appreciate you jumping on. And the reason being is, as I kind of alluded to in the open, right? We have kind of saw the transitions over time in Oklahoma State. And at one point in time, we had this offense where it was hurry up, get it out of the hands, right? One of Braden Whedon's games was to try to get it out of his hands in under 2.4 seconds, right? These were things that we used to combat some weaknesses that were perceived in recruiting. And that was the O-line, D-line, right? Gundy for years and years and years talked about it's hard to get the 300-pound dudes to Stillwater. So we had to find innovative ways offensively to kind of counterbalance that. And so through this evolutionary process, you've seen the run game kind of be hit and miss, right? If you've got a Justice Hill or a Chuba Hubbard or a Jalen Warren, then maybe it allows you to do some things that you aren't really designed to do. Well, this year, we have watched this transition go from this high-flying offense that we've been known for years and years and years to more of this old school, right? We went very aggressively after tight ends. We got Braden Cassidy coming back, and we know he can transition to more of that fullback role, just like a Schultz can. So now we have true tight ends. We're going to use more 11 and 12 personnel, which means our running game is coming back, which means the power in the running game is coming back, which is why I think it's perfect that you are on the show, because you were in that evolutionary process, right? You were part of the transitions and the diamond formation and the smash mouth football to a little bit more of that widespread. And now we're reverting back to more old school. So can you kind of walk us through what that was like for you when you saw the transition happening at Oklahoma State?
Well, I would say that, I'm going to go back a little bit because when I got there, I wasn't, tabbed to be a fullback. Injuries,
Right.
derailed my, career and kind of held me back. But one person that I definitely kind of saw like in that, that role and be very successful at it was Brian Ward. And a lot of people kind of forget about him a little bit. Stillwater kid, he just did everything right. He'd come in, isolation, 22, 23, hitting off that backside end. So that was just something that I tried to, mold my game just a little bit in the sense of him. Now, I won't try to, knock him down for anything, but obviously I was a little bit better at running the ball just a hair. But it's been very cool to see us get back to that smash mouth game. back in 2011, our run game was most important because it set up our play action. Blacking on the post, getting out those quick screens. They had to respect the run, and
Right.
with like we had with Joseph Randall, Jeremy Smith, uh, Desmond Rowland, it was easy to block for those guys. Sometimes, I'd see the defense and I'm like, just follow me, and okay, and we had great success. So it's very cool to see, I guess, the start of the Cowboy back. I guess I kind of pioneered that,
Yes, you
and
did.
like I said, it's really cool to see. It's awesome because I can literally go back, and I remember meeting one fullback. I can't remember his name. Klutz. I'm not exactly sure. I had a chance to meet him, and when I said my name, and he was like, "Wait, you're Kye?" And I was like, "Yeah." He's like, "Man, I remember watching. They used to put film. We had to have clinics just watching you block people." And like, I was like, "Man, it's just an attitude. Whenever you come out with an attitude and you set that tone against a defense, they get to a point to where those safeties don't want to come down, those linebackers don't want to come down. You just wear a defense down easily."
So, okay, yeah, I like that you said we're going to go back a little bit. Let's do that again. Let's talk about high school because, as you had already said, you were again the number one ranked player in the state of Oklahoma, the number six ranked athlete in all of America,
Mhm.
and you were a running back, you were a quarterback, you were a free safety, strong safety, linebacker, DN, tight end, wide receiver, whatever. Right? Matter of fact, your senior year. Oh, you ready? You ran for 1,380 yards and 28 touchdowns. Is that accurate?
That sounds about right.
So, yeah, you came to Oklahoma State to be a bad mamma jamma running back, right? We brought you in to run the rock right next to Joe Randall. And everybody knows Joe Randall was a bad mamma jamma who had a very good NFL career. And you were going to be right there with him. And you knew that coming in, which is why I kind of want to talk about the recruiting process. Because
Okay.
again, when you choose Oklahoma State over OU, Arkansas, and Michigan, that was new. And I know you knew that, right? You knew coming from Guthrie, everybody assumed you were going to go to OU because how talented you are. I mean, when you're, I don't know, the player of the year in the state, that's usually not a guy that O State got for a long time. And so not only were you a catalyst in what the Cowboy back ended up being, and you mentioned Bryant Ward actually played high school ball with Bryant Ward, and it's funny that he made his yoke over at fullback because in high school he made his living as a linebacker.
Mhm.
He played fullback, running back as well, but I just remember him tearing it up as a linebacker. But yeah, you guys are the reason the Cowboy back was invented, but that was kind of because of injuries.
Mhm.
So let's kind of go back in your recruiting process for one. So tell us about the recruiting process, why you picked Oklahoma State, and then we'll get into the injuries. But real quick, brother man, I do got to let the fine people out here know that, as I mentioned earlier, today we are brought to you by FanDuel. And everybody knows whenever you're trying to, manipulate the pocketbook a little bit, if your money's acting a little funny, if your change is acting a little strange, FanDuel is going to be able to help you with that. Okay. We're really excited. This our new partnership with Locked On because they are the number one sports book in America. If you love FanDuel, that's even better for you because we have so many features. Starting today, get $150 in free bets guaranteed when you place a $5 bet. Sign up at FanDuel.com/locked on. FanDuel has all your favorite bets from money line, point spreads, and player props. Plus, you can combine your bets for a chance at bigger payouts with the same game parlay. Do yourself a favor right now. Go to Locked On as your promo code, FanDuel.com. Make every moment more matter with FanDuel. All right. All right. So, the recruiting process. How did it evolve that you chose Oklahoma State over all of those options? And then we'll get into the injury bug.
Well, I think a lot of people don't notice. I was actually committed to LSU my senior year in the summertime. Les Miles had came in fresh off a national championship, and he came in and came in with his national championship ring, and got a chance to meet him. He kind of made it sound very enticing. They also wanted me at running back, so I was like, yeah, I commit. And I remember I didn't talk to my mom about it, so she wasn't very happy at that time. The more and more, I went to OSU, it just seemed like, and it kind of like seemed like a no-brainer. I realized that, LSU is about 8 or 9 hours. Distance wasn't, really a factor, but I wanted to think about it. I want my family and friends to be able to see me play at this high level. And I know that it'd been a little bit impossible, with me going to LSU. And so I visited Stillwater quite often. And, at that time, they were rebuilding Boone Pickens Stadium. They had just gotten the West End Zone built. They were showing us a lot of different new uniforms that were coming up. And it was like I said, it was just a no-brainer. It was like a lot of stuff that I wanted to be a part of. And, I remember I had Roy Williams ask me, I had the opportunity to talk to him. He's like, you could have went to OU, OSU, or wherever. Why'd you choose OSU? And I said, because I wanted to be a part of something that had never happened before. And we were able to, win the school's first outright Big 12 championship, go on and have great success in the Fiesta Bowl. And he was, he got the points like, I can respect that. I said, OU's had, much success and they've done that before, but I wanted to be a part of something that had never been done. And that's why I chose OSU.
Well, okay. I'm glad it worked out because that's exactly what happened. You were part of that transition that made everybody realize that Oklahoma State is a contender now. And Gundy kind of helped set that bar for us being a contender year in and year out. And you're right, because of you guys that was able to happen. And it's good to hear that LSU was able to steal Les Miles from us, but not you. So I'm very glad that you kind of help break that down for us. Okay, so walk us through. You come in, you red shirt, right? You come in at what, 6 foot, 211, 210, something like that. And then you go through your next spring, and that's when you have not only a debilitating injury, but a lot of people said it was a devastating injury that may cause you to never even walk again. Walk us through that moment, because you knew talent-wise you were good enough to be on that field, right? And ironically enough, when you hurt yourself was on a touchdown play in spring, correct? Or was it fall?
So it happened in the fall. It was literally the last day of camp, last day of 2 days.
Gotcha.
And that's when, I'm a redshirt freshman coming in. I'm trying to prove myself being on special teams, trying to show the coaches that I can be a valuable asset to the team. And I'll never forget it. I went 4 consecutive plays on special teams. And at that time, we had Coach Gillespie as our running back coach. And he had asked me, I was going to second team. He's like, hey, do you want me to get you a breather? And I was like, no, I'm fine. Because like I said, I wanted to show him that I could carry the workload.
Right.
The injury had happened. It was the second play of the little scrimmage that we had. I just missed a cut and got rolled up. And as my foot stayed in the ground, just a lineman kind of, his weight just hit on me and just slowly just tore. And the ironic thing about that is my mom and my uncle were supposed to come watch that. And they weren't able to get into the gate because they forgot the gate code. So they, went ahead and turned around and driving back to Guthrie. And so I think when they got to the exit, that's when she got the call, like, hey, I need you to come back. I hurt myself. We got to go to the hospital. I didn't know the magnitude of the injury at the time. Like I said, when it happened, my foot just went numb and, swelled up my knee swelled up like a balloon. And I remember it was hot and I tried to get up and just fell back down. Rob Hunt, John Stem, were like, just stay down. He's like, yeah, you definitely tore it, but this is probably going to be a whole lot more. We're just going to let you know. So, I went through all of that as a, 18-year-old kid who's just, looking just to get on the field. But,
you tore your MCL, ACL, PCL, and meniscus, correct?
ACL, MCL, meniscus, hamstring, calf, and I had nerve damage. Yeah, it was a total blowout. Total blowout.
That's rare. That's a 1 in a million injury.
Mm-hmm. Very rare. I'll never forget. I had surgery the day before my 19th birthday, so that was definitely a tough time. As like I said, now 19-year-old kid, fresh out of surgery, right. just upset at the world, and just why, asking God why me? I've done everything right. I put in the work. I trust the process. I'm like, just why? So it was definitely tough, but now I look back on it. At the time, I never thought I'd get through it, and here I am years later, still with a story, to tell, just to show people that, impossible is nothing. You can get through anything with the right mindset and with the right attitude and just with the right people that have your back, for sure.
So whenever you got over your surgery, and another thing that you were part of was the solidification of what body by glass really means. So kind of walk us through that, right? Because you're right. You have a redshirt year. You're doing everything right. You're climbing up the depth chart. you belong, and then all of this stuff happens. And then you ended up putting on, what was it, like 30, 40, 45 pounds?
It was about 20 pounds in the summer. So
Okay.
about 15, 20 pounds in the summer, which
And
that's
what was your mentality? Like, did you know? Well, I mean, hell, actually, they were originally telling you may not walk again. So I know you didn't know, but in your mind, when was the moment that you knew I can get back on the field?
the moment I knew I should get back on the field was literally the day after the Alamo Bowl in 2010. I had a lot of people didn't notice I was secretly working out on my own. I
Mhm.
literally oven and work out. At that time, I knew I was still part of the team, but I didn't feel like it. Like
Right.
not and
You felt separated, and you were working out in Guthrie, right?
well, like I said, I was just working out at the Coven. I'd literally go up to the Coven
Okay.
nights and just work out, and people were like, "Is that I'm not. I would never go in there with OSU football, nothing. Like I just let me be a regular student, just let me work out and do what I gotta do and leave." But I remember I went to Coach Gundy and I was like, "Hey, Coach Gundy, can I talk to you?" He's like, "Yeah, what's up?" And so I said, I think I want to try it one more time." And he's like, "That's perfect." He said, "I was just waiting for you to ask." And he was get with Coach Glass and just get with him and we'll talk and we'll figure out what we need to do. I will say that I am very grateful for OSU strength conditioning staff, Coach Glass, Coach G, Coach Truman. All of them were huge catalysts to help me get back. Coach Joel, he was able to keep my mind, in the right direction. Keeping my faith strong. Coach Glass was the one that really kept me motivated, and I say Coach G is the one that really kept me humble. So I got to give a huge shout out to the strength and conditioning staff for everything they had done for me at that time.
And when was the shift in your mindset that you knew you were going to go from, an extremely athletic running back to a guy that was now going to be leading the way? Was that a transition that you made, or did somebody recommend, like, "Hey, Kye, I think this is the direction we're going to go with you," because you're just too athletic to not be on the field in some capacity?
So, like I said, I'll never forget that day. Now we're moving on from Coach Gillespie to Coach Singleton, who came in. He just sat me down. I went through spring. That's when my confidence really grew because everybody on the team knew what I was going through, knew what I had gone through. So to see me start coming up the way I did in practice and able to move and able to do everything I had, I feel like it was they inspired me to work harder each and every day. I see how Justin Blackman works hard. I see how Markel Martin works hard. I see how Brandon Whedon works hard. And I wanted that taste. You know what I'm saying? And
Yeah,
so
yeah.
as I'm continuing to go through it, spring is done, and Coach Singleton sits me down and said, "Hey," he said, "I'm gonna be honest with you. He said, honestly, Joe's gonna be our guy, and Jeremy's gonna be our backup. I'm just letting you know." He said, "If you want to get on the field, we gotta this idea. We want to go fast, but we need a fullback, that can, you know, do what we need. Catch something out of the
Yep.
backfield, be able to block, run, feel like you could be that spot." And I'll never forget. I said, "I'm not no damn fullback," and I got up and walked out the room. And literally, I called my mom and I talked to her about it, and she gave me a little insight, a little butt chewing, honestly. And so I walked back in literally the next day, and I said, "Well, I have an opportunity to play." He said, "The spot is yours to lose. Let's do it." And from that moment on, my mindset changed. Okay, I'm about to go hit people.
Thank you very much, Mama Bear Kye. We appreciate you. Okay, so let's talk about that when you decided to come back.
Mhm.
I'm sure, and you've already mentioned a few, but I would imagine going back knowing you're going to be able to play with Brandon Whedon and Justin Blackman and Joe Randall, and Jeremy Smith and Charlie Moore and Clint Shelf and Colton Shelf and Desmond Rowland and
Mhm.
Wilson Newman. I mean, the list goes on. You guys had a lot of talent, and obviously you had a very opportunistic defense. Was you coming back in 2011 more about you on a personal journey, or was it more about, oh crap, we're going to be pretty good?
It was
I
definitely
might I might want to hang on for see if we can win a ring here.
more about me. I
Okay.
felt I had something to prove. I let a lot of negativity from my town kind of get to me, like, "Oh, you were this in high school, now you're out doing that," and I had something to prove. And, I felt like I kind of let my family down in that sense. And, mom always told me, I don't care if you play another down of football in your life. If you graduate, that's the proudest moment. And
Right.
so, like I said, at the time I think I was 20, 21. I'm like, nah, that's not good enough for me. And, there's so many motivational factors that, that went into that, being able to come back and play Y War number 9, just to be able to represent just my hometown as a whole. And I don't care I didn't care if we went 0-10. If I was able to step on the field after everything I had gone through and doctors saying I'd never play football again, or maybe not even walk again, that was the motivation I needed. And yeah, I just went 1,000 miles an hour with it.
It's kind of not funny, but ironic you mentioned, the town thing, right? I think for visualization purposes, you could think back to the Friday Night Lights type of scenario, right, with Boobie Miles.
Hmm.
And I can imagine you were the Oklahoma Player of the Year. You were a 9-time varsity letter award winner. I didn't even know you could do that. I just- and yeah, man, you set the bench. You were the bar in Guthrie High School for heck a long time, and you played with was it Kentrell brothers?
He was a little bit younger than me. I
Okay,
played with
okay,
Dante Foster. Um,
Roger.
Let me trying to think. Maybe some people that you may know. Dante Foster. He went to end up going to Ohio, having a great career. So that's the most well known, like, of
Got
Guthrie.
you. Yeah. Okay. That's awesome, man. Yeah, man. So you come back in 2011, right?
Mhm.
And I'm assuming you knew the talent level you had, but I guess you don't really always know until you get into the thick of it. That's when you really find out. But let's go. You talked about being a receiving option. Can we go over that tutty you got when Mr. Heisman and the number 3 ranked Baylor Bears come into Stillwater and catch an L, and you have that touchdown? What was that first reception like in the end zone after battling through multiple years of nothing but injuries? I mean, go through that daggone emotion.
It was definitely a testament of, the hard work and, just the dedication that I had. Like I said, Coach Glass, Coach Joel, and Coach G, like I said, they kept my mind at ease, and they kept me mentally, physically, and emotionally strong in that mindset. It was very rewarding, I'll say. We had talked about this play the whole week, and I remember Monken was like, "You should be open." And when I caught it, I turned and looked, and I said, "Oh crap! Like, I really am open, but I have to." And our coach always tells us, act like you've been there before. I said, Coach, I'll be honest with you, I didn't know how to act because I hadn't been there before. There's so many things I wanted to do, but the main thing I knew I wanted to do was celebrate with my teammates and just take a knee just one time, just to, thank the Lord for, everything. I feel like that moment was kind of defining. That's probably the best moment I've ever had at OSU. On a personal aspect of it. But yeah, it was pretty cool, because we were playing RG3, who ended up being a Heisman winner, being first round pick, and just to go out and dominate them the way that we did was just it was great.
Complete domination. Complete. Well, heck, if you want to talk about domination, and I'm sure you got to work out what you wanted to do on the end zone because you had a couple more rushing touchdowns against Baylor as well. So you like to play Baylor evidently, and we appreciate that. So not only did you get to dominate the Heisman winner when they were ranked number 3, you also got to I'm going to go past dominate. Y'all got to obliterate the daggone team 71 miles down south. That had tell me that feeling. I mean, I was on the strip, so I remember most of that night, but just in general, that game was absolutely insane. To blow the doors off of them had to be a pretty cool feeling. Growing up in Oklahoma with your whole life, I'm sure you heard a million times, "Oh, you're going to go to OU. Oh, you're going to go to OU." Your whole life, I'm sure you heard that. And then to have that not only moment, but to blow the absolute doors off of them. I mean, come on, man.
It was well, I will say this, the previous game before that, we were very heartbroken, just with the
Yes.
of our coaches.
Right.
That game was, a tough pill to swallow. We had came out and we had did everything right, and I'll never take anything away from, Iowa State. They did what they had to do to beat us in the game.
Yeah.
But honestly, our
Jim
mind,
Stark got screwed.
yeah, our minds, we were just thinking about the bigger picture. Like I said, should have went, handle business like we should have, but it is what it is. So when we come back, we were more angry than anything. So we wanted to go out and kind of prove a point. And our running backs did an excellent job. I think that's the first game that I don't think he had a passing touchdown. Like on offensively, I think all of our touchdowns were rushing. So we just went out and set the tone and just do what we had to do, because we knew we still had our a high possibility of making the national championship. So we had to come out and just do what we had to do, just to show the committee that that loss was just kind of a fluke, and we are a team to be reckoned with.
Yeah, you'd think they would have taken that into consideration. And I'm actually very glad you went there. And it's a perfect segue. So the show I did earlier today was all about the basketball game today against Ole Miss. It's the Remember the 10 day, right? So what you were talking about, just for some of the fans out there, was Oklahoma State had another plane crash. And it killed some people that some of the OSU players were dating at the time. So that trip to Ames, Iowa, I mean, playing at Ames, Iowa at night is already a nightmare, right? The emotion of, and I do know that it was kind of kicked around about that game potentially being postponed. And as the basketball team gets set up today for a massive game against Ole Miss with the Remember the 10 plane crash, go over the emotions that you guys had to try to bottle and play. How difficult was that? Because clearly the result on the field equaled. Y'all just weren't 100% up to snuff. Do you think that the emotions maybe got the better of you on that day?
Like I said, I won't say that. And once again, I'll say Iowa State, came in and had a good game plan, and they were the better team at that moment. But yeah, we had literally just seen Coach Bucky and Coach Cerna literally the day before we left, because we all were in training table. To say it wasn't in the back of our minds would be a lie.
Right.
We just gotten woken up a little bit earlier, and Coach wanted to let us know before we saw it on any type of social media or news outlets that what was happening, and we just kind of just sat and just prayed, and we're just there for each other. Like everybody felt it. Everybody felt it.
And it's things like this, and I've talked about it on my show before. Oklahoma State is different, right? OU fans will talk all day, every day, 24/7 about football, 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 football. Oklahoma State fans talk about the university, right? We're not, I mean, obviously football drives it's the moneymaker, right? But we do kind of, I don't know, we're more of a tight-knit community than most everywhere else in the country. I think that's one of the reasons Oklahoma State is significantly different. And then you being an Okie and being in that moment, I'm sure the emotions did play a part. But as as it pertains to today, do you think that your journey after Oklahoma State has been as involved as you wanted it to be? I mean, do you feel as involved with O State as you want to be? Do you come back to games? Are you invited to a bunch of stuff? And because again, to build the future, I think it's important to keep the past together as well.
I get back to games whenever I possibly can. I've been invited back, but like I said, I try to get back as much as I can. I definitely agree with you. It's definitely important to keep the past, especially players, intact, because those players that are kind of there now, they kind of saw us coming up, back in the day. Yep. And just the way we had transitioned the program, because I still remember when we were 6-7, 7-7, and just to see the progression of the program as a whole, it was a gratifying experience to know, like, we had a pinch like of something to do with that, just to see how Oklahoma State has come up as a football team and as a program, to see how we're getting all these now 4-star recruits, to see how we're getting some of the top players in the state. Just us coming out and just handling our business and doing it the right way, just doing it the way we're supposed to.
I love it, man. Yeah, and don't sell yourself short. You didn't have a pinch. Get out of here. Y'all were very instrumental in the amount of success. That 2011 squad opened the door, right? but more importantly, it was the squads, like you said, that built up to that.
Mhm.
Right. And like you said, the past is very important, because if you're going through recruiting, I'm sure the first time you ever met Barry Sanders or Thurman Thomas was one of those moments that you're like, oh crap, I played the same place these dudes did, but we
Mhm.
don't talk about them enough. That's what, dude, that is 100%. I don't want to get on a rant here, but that's why I got into this, because we are one of the top 10 winningest programs in all of college football in the last decade. But if you talk to somebody in Mississippi or Maine or Oregon, they know nothing about O State. There's people C to C that don't know that Barry Sanders went to Oklahoma State, or Thurman Thomas, or Hartley Dykes, or Barry Sanders. It just, the list goes on and on and on. Des Bryant. And that's what I am trying to do, is to get all this information out there. And having people like you on the show is masterful. It's masterful in me being able to help do that, because as we'd already talked about, connecting the dots from the past to what we have now, especially with this new, 11-man type of personnel that we're shifting towards, the grab your lunch pail, go to work, go to war mentality. It's always meant more in Stillwater, and it has to continue to be that way because of guys like you. Brother man, let's think about it. If 2011 doesn't happen, then the expectation of O State fans is still what? 7, 8 wins?
Mhm.
But that's not the expectation anymore. I would argue that as an O State fan, with how much we've ascended, anything less than 9 wins is a moment where you shake your head and go, well, what happened? What
Mhm.
went wrong? And it's because of you. You guys set that foundation. Yeah, Les Miles obviously helped, right? Les Miles kind of put one of those big building blocks in the ground. Gundy expanded upon it. But as far as the growth of the program, it's 100% due to your guys' crew in getting up to 2011, because that's what put us on the map. That's what allowed even the Mason Rudolph years, right? 10 win seasons back to back to back.
Mhm.
And Mason Rudolph was a big time 4-star get. And again, it was because of your classes. So please don't sell yourself short. Make sure you come back to Stillwater as much as you physically possibly can, because it's imperative. It's imperative for Oklahoma State's continued success and growth to get this stuff out there, brother. Right? So don't sell yourself short, right? We appreciate what y'all did, because without it, we wouldn't have what we have now.
Mhm.
The expectation wouldn't be what it is now. Okay, so before we skedaddle on off here, brother, let's talk a little bit about what you're doing in life at this moment, because I know after O State, you helped some family, got in some real estate, you bounced around, done some oil and gas, which, I'm a big fan of, because that's where I spent most of my career. So kind of just let us know what your transition out of football was, and where you're at now.
Transition out of football. Whenever I was in college, I'll say that I was an angry player. I played angry, and I played with a chip on my shoulder, and it kind of transitioned to my personal life. So once I kind of got out of football, that's when I really looked for a lot of mental peace, just to figure out who I am as a person, and not be identified as just Kye Staley, the football player. And I think a lot of football players can't break away from that persona, and it's kind of difficult. And I'll be the first to admit it. That ego, just of this, I was known for this and that, and it feels good, but you get to a point to where you want to be known for more, and that's one thing that I've definitely been in the process of doing. But as you were asking, right now I'm working in oil and gas, working for a company named Enzyme. Right now we're out in Odessa. I'm actually doing a few things. Started a pie business, like pie that you eat. Is quite funny how all that process started up. And long story short, I ended up naming it Edda's Pies, named after my grandmother. But come to find out, I told my mom that story, and what I wanted to name it, and she said, that's crazy. She said, my uncle, whenever he was a kid, had a dream of starting a pie business named Edda's Pies. And when kind of told me that, I felt like it was fate. It was like destiny to do it. And so I've been kind of doing that for a year, and it's just been progressing each and every day, each and every week, each and every month, every year. And
ETTA?
ETTA, Edda's Pies by Kye.
That's my mother's name.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Small world, man. And on side of that, I also have a podcast myself called Athletes with Appetite.
Yes.
I just finished my 7th episode. If you knew better, it's on Spotify at the moment. Really trying to look to get it to Apple Podcasts, which is a process. I know I need to be more consistent with it because I do feel like I do have a lot of good content to talk about. A lot of times I talk about struggles I went through in college, just as an adult male, and what the podcast is really about is just getting different athletes on there just to talk about their stories. Everybody has a story. I have my story. I also got a former OSU player on there recently, David Washington. He was my episode 6, and he got to open up about some of the struggles he went through in his life, and able to get a young girl named Harini on there from India, who's a tennis player who came over to the United States to play in college. And as I talk to these athletes, they open up their stories. I go around Oklahoma City to these smaller businesses, and I talk about it and I promote them. And it's just something that just kind of came to me one day, and I started writing up the plot about it and just brought it to, just manifested it.
I love it, man. Well, I've already told you, I'll help in any capacity, right? We're all a family here at O State. And I love your journey. I love your path. What you stand for is amazing. To be able to come back after the severity of injuries, multiple injuries that you had, you left an indelible mark on a lot of people at Oklahoma State. And I just hope that you are always recognized for that. Because, yeah, again, you opened the door for us getting the big 4-star, 5-star kids that are around the Oklahoma area. Because for a long time, again, we had to recruit Texas because we didn't get the top guys in the state. So, yes, you opened the door, and then the things that you battled through, it's the embodiment, the physical embodiment of the Cowboy culture. 100%, Bubba. So thank you for what you gave us, because it was more than just football for us fans to watch you come back from what you went through and being a local and knowing what you already were doing at Guthrie, right? And the expectations that were on you at the running back position to see you flourish. It was cool, man. It was really, really cool. And I think it's important because it's exactly what I think we're transitioning to again. So this next season should be very reminiscent of the days when you and Bryant Ward were roaming the field. So I'm excited, man, and it's an honor to have you on the show. What was the name of your podcast again, brother? Because I think everybody that listens here, make sure that you go check out Kye Staley's podcast. And somehow, brother, man, we're international. Okay, so we're giving shout outs to everybody in Finland and all the other countries that are watching. So make sure that you check his podcast out. Make sure you subscribe to it. Name drop it one more time for us, please, brother.
It is Athletes with Appetites. You can get on Instagram. It's at ATH with Appetites _. That's where I post the link, and you can kind of see the places that I go and what I'm eating and everything like that.
I love it, man. All right, brother. Well, we're definitely going to have to link up here before too long.
Yeah.
I'll be traveling, covering some 7-on-7 media tournaments. So yeah, I'm sure we'll get hooked up at one of these times, and we'll do an episode live and chop it up that way. And then again, whatever you need from me, if you need any assistance in any capacity when it comes to the podcast, more than happy to help, brother, man. More than happy to help.
Right on, man. I appreciate that. Thank you for having me. I appreciate your time.
Absolutely, man. Anytime. All right, Cowboy and Cowgirl Nation, say hello to number 9 in your hearts, Kye Staley. Greatly appreciate your time, brother, man. As always, we will do this again. All righty, y'all. I think that's all we got for this one. It is massively important, in my opinion, to make sure that we continue to connect these dots. Because if you want to see what the production could be in 2023, oh, heck, I don't know. Go back and watch some of the 2011 stuff. Go back and watch some of the 2010 stuff. You're going to see some similarities. And again, it's because of guys like Kye that got us a blueprint. We know we can do this. We've seen it. We've done it. It's in the warehouse. All Gundy's got to do is pull the blueprints back out and point exactly to what Kye Staley and Bryant Ward were able to do. And this is the recipe for success moving forward. I can't wait. So as always, I love you all. God bless. Go Pokes. Thank you for making this your first listen here on Locked On Oklahoma State. All right, y'all. Until the next one. Later.